Hello and welcome to another online lesson with Sunshine School. Today we will be talking about the passive voice. So, if you're ready, let's get started. The passive voice is often used to show interest in the person or object that experiences an action, rather than the person or object that performs the action. In other words, the most important thing or person becomes the subject of this sentence. The passive voice is often used in newspaper articles, news reports, and things like this. So let's look at how we form the passive voice. We will take an example sentence in the active voice. J.K. Rowling wrote the Harry Potter books. Now let's look at how we change this sentence to the passive voice. There are 5 steps to do this. The first step is to identify the subject, the verb, and the object. The subject is J.K. Rowling. The verb is wrote, and the object is the Harry Potter books. In the active voice, the emphasis is on the subject, J.K. Rowling, whereas we want the passive voice, where the emphasis will be on the object, the Harry Potter books. Step 2 is to move the object of the active sentence and change it to the subject of the passive sentence. So let's take the object, the Harry Potter books, and put it at the beginning of the sentence as the subject. Step 3 is to identify the verb tense. The verb here is wrote, and the tense is past simple. So now, we need to add into our sentence the verb to be in the same tense as the verb in the active sentence. Here, this is were. We use were instead of was because the Harry Potter books is plural. There is more than one book. Next, for step 4, we add the past participle of our verb in the active sentence after the word were. So here the past participle of wrote is written. Now we have the Harry Potter books were written. Finally, for step 5, we take the subject in the original active sentence and we add the word by and add it to our passive sentence. The Harry Potter books were written by J.K. Rowling. We only add this agent if it adds information. Otherwise, this will be omitted from the sentence. Here, J.K. Rowling is not omitted because it adds information. In our example sentence, we added the agent at the end because it was important information. Here are some examples of where we do not need to add the agent to the sentence, when it is unknown, unimportant, or obvious from the context. For example, my bike was stolen yesterday. We don't know the agent in this sentence, so it's not added. The car is washed once a week. The agent here is unimportant. We don't need to add it to the sentence. The thief was arrested by the police is the obvious agent and therefore doesn't need to be added to the sentence. Using the question form, we do not need to say the agent, or perhaps we don't want to say the agent. For example, was Simon invited to the party? Next, we'll look at the passive voice in various different tenses. First, in present simple. The active sentence, Jack waters the plants. Jack is the subject, waters is the verb, the plants are the object. In the passive voice, the plants are watered by Jack. Next, the past simple. Let's take the active voice. Picasso painted that picture. Picasso is the subject, painted is the verb, the picture is the object. So in the passive voice, this becomes, that picture was painted by Picasso. Now we'll try future simple. In the active voice, Tina will deliver the letters. Tina is the subject, deliver is the verb, the letters are the object. So in the passive voice, the letters will be delivered by Tina. Next, present perfect simple. The active voice, Alex has cleaned the windows. Alex is the subject, cleaned is the verb, the windows are the object. This becomes the passive voice with the windows have been cleaned by Alex. Now the past perfect simple. Let's take the active voice. They had decorated the streets before the carnival started. They are the subject, decorated is the verb, the streets are the object. So this becomes the streets had been decorated. Now we add the remainder of the sentence, before the carnival started. Now we'll look at the present continuous. The active voice, he is washing the car. He is the subject, washing is the verb, the car is the object. This becomes the car is being washed. We do not need to add the agent in this sentence. Now, past continuous. The active voice. When she went home, her mother was preparing dinner. Her mother is the subject, preparing is the verb, dinner is the object. So we add the first part of the sentence unchanged. When she went home, dinner was being prepared by her mother. Now let's look at the structure. For the simple tenses, present simple, past simple, and future simple, we use the correct form of the verb to be and the past participle. The various forms of the verb to be include am, is, are, was, were, and will be. So let's look at a statement. A positive statement. Everyone is invited to the party. The subject is everyone. The correct form of the verb to be is, and then the past participle, invited. A negative statement. Some people aren't invited to the party. So here we have a subject, some people. Aren't is the correct form of the verb to be here, the negative form, are not. The past participle, invited. Next, a question. Are you invited to the party? Here we start with the correct form of the verb to be, are. Then the subject, then the past participle. Are you invited? Now we'll look at the continuous tenses, present simple continuous and past simple continuous. First, we use the correct form of the verb to be, am, is, are, was, or were. Then we use being plus the past participle. For a positive statement, the pizzas are being baked. The subject here is the pizzas. The correct form of the verb to be is are, then the being, and then the past participle. The pizzas are being baked. A negative statement. The pizzas aren't being baked. The subject is the pizzas. The correct form of the verb to be is are not, the negative form, are not. Being and the past participle, baked. The pizzas aren't being baked. Next, a question. Are the pizzas being baked? First, we start with the correct form of the verb to be, are. Remember, the pizzas is plural, so we use are. Then the subject, then being and the past participle. Are the pizzas being baked? Now we'll look at the perfect simple tenses, present perfect simple and past perfect simple. For this, we use have, has or had, been, and the past participle. For a positive statement, the pizzas have been baked. We use the subject, then have, been, and the past participle. For a negative statement, the pizzas haven't been baked. We use the subject, the negative form of our verb, haven't or have not, been, and the past participle, been baked. Next, a question. Have the pizzas been baked? We start with the correct form of our verb, then the subject, then been, and the past participle. Be careful. When the verb in a passive sentence is a phrasal verb, don't forget to include the particle. He will pick me up from the station on Saturday becomes I will be picked up from the station on Saturday. So it's time to check our knowledge. Pause the video, have a look through the questions, and then we'll go through them. So if you're ready, let's rewrite the sentences. Number 1. A storm destroyed 3 houses in the neighborhood becomes the passive voice, 3 houses in the neighborhood were destroyed by a storm. Number 2. Fiona takes the dog for a walk every day becomes the passive, the dog is taken for a walk by Fiona every day. Number 3. Do they usually feed the animals 3 times a day? This becomes the passive form of the question, are the animals usually fed 3 times a day? Number 4. The Queen will open the exhibition. This becomes the passive voice, the exhibition will be opened by the Queen. Number 5. Lots of famous singers have sung that song. In the passive voice, that song has been sung by lots of famous singers. Number 6. They hadn't invented digital cameras when we took that photo. This becomes the passive voice, digital cameras hadn't been invented when that photo was taken. Here we have omitted the agent. Number 7. They are showing that film at the cinema in town. In the passive voice, that film is being shown at the cinema in town. Number 8. When I got there, Carly was doing the ironing, so I didn't have to do it. In the passive voice, when I got there, the ironing was being done, so I didn't have to do it. Again, we've omitted the agent from this sentence. So, today, the passive voice was talked about by me. I hope that helped you, and we'll see you in the next video.